All right, so I'm back today. New plug came in the mail today, or whatever you want to call this thing. I'm no professional, but it's like a nut with a washer. It goes over this shift shaft drive. I already took the old one out. You can see it's pretty nasty. The washer on the bottom of it is just completely flattened and worn out. That's where it was leaking, was from right under there. So I had to order this tool. It's made to fit in the grooves. Just got it off Amazon. Got the part numbers from mercurymarine.com. Put my serial number in there, and that's where I usually get my parts numbers. You can buy stuff from them, but a lot of times I find you can get it quicker and cheaper from Amazon. You just paste that, copy and paste that part number into Amazon and find it, make sure it's the right one. So now the way this works, it slides down on that shift shaft pretty far, and so I didn't have a deep well socket that would fit this. It's a 3/4 inch socket that goes on the back of it. So I could get that on there just enough to get a ratchet on it. I actually use my DeWalt impactor wrench to just take it off real slowly. Again, to be careful, be really careful, but don't let that shaft turn once you got it set in neutral like you want it. As you're taking this thing off, once I got it loose enough that I could turn it by hand, I just turned it by hand and screwed it off. And I just took a screwdriver and kind of put the hole at the top of that shift shaft to push it down to make sure it didn't move, and I used my other hand to screw that loose. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the new one in. As you can see, it's got a rubber gasket inside of it, and then the one on the bottom too, it's in much better shape. And then it has this gasket here that came with it. It goes on the top. It slides down over, sits in that hole, and then the shifter linkage from up in the motor comes down and sits on top of that. So we can get this started. Slide way down there pretty far before you can do much with it. So I'll slide the socket over it and just hand tighten it at first. Now, I didn't look up the spec on the torque on this. Typically something like this, I just snug it down really good with a hand ratchet. I won't use my impact on this. I just did that to get it off because it was pretty stuck on there. But I think it's probably the original from 1996, to be honest with you. So as far as I use my fingers, I'll stick the socket on. Again, I'm watching this shift shaft and making sure that it's not turning. It's not. I have it neutral. It takes quite a bit of pressure to get down to that. So that's about all I'm doing with my hand now to get my 1/2 inch ratchet. As I said, it won't go. I don't have a deep well socket, so I kind of have to hold this up and just be gentle with it as I do it. And if you slip, you're not stripping out your plug by any means. It's simply just your tool that you just bought. And they're $9.99 on Amazon. It'll be easier if I take the suspension out of it. Can't turn as much, but I have more control. That's hand tight, and then tighten with the ratchet. It should be good. Again, just make sure you don't pull that up any. I haven't. So now this washer slides down on top all the way down against it. Just look down a little bit. Push on both sides, it'll slide all the way down. Let's seat it back in there. Okay, now I'm gonna the ratchet back on the shift shaft to make sure that I'm still in neutral like I want it to be. Turn it first and see where I left it yesterday. We're still in neutral. There it goes. Still in neutral. I can turn the shaft, drive shaft, and the propeller free from each other. That's where we want to be. Okay, I'm going to refill this with lower unit grease, and I'm gonna just take my air compressor and plug up to it and just put a little tiny shot of air in there just to make sure that I don't have any more leaks while it's off, and then I'll mount it back on the boat and we'll try it out and see what happens. I'm not going to show you how to put the lower unit grease in. If you're doing this, you know how to do that. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Just a little video to catch everybody up. So the last one you saw was me putting the seal back on the shift shaft, resealing that because it was leaking, and I was getting lower unit grease mixed with water coming out of my lower unit when I parked in the driveway. So I replaced all that, put it all back together, ran on the muffs, was gonna take it out over the weekend, this weekend. Woke up the next morning after I tested it and I had greasy water coming out my lower unit again. So I had to remove the lower unit again. I pressure tested it again. And I'm very confident that I have zero issues in my lower unit seal on the behind the propeller. Nothing coming out. It's actually, I believe, been replaced. I think it was replaced when this propeller was put on back last fall. When the guy that I bought it for. Looks like it's really new. So what I ended up having to do was I replaced the seal under the water pump. So while I did that, I just went ahead and replaced the water pump and everything. I didn't make a video of that because there's a million of those, but I'll post some links below to the seals that go in there. It took a few days to get those. But anyway, long story short, I put all that back together, and today I just got to running on the muffs and everything is looking fine so far. We're gonna let it sit here overnight on this whiteboard and just make sure everything's good. But I pressure tested it before I brought it back out and had no leaks, air leaks at all. So if all is well in the morning after church, we will go put it on the water and get these carbs that I rebuilt back a few weeks ago completely tuned. But it's running and starting pretty well now. It's a little hard to start. I think it's probably running a little bit lean. But once we get that those oxygen screws adjusted, idle oxygen screws adjusted, I think it'll be fine. You want to run a little bit rich versus a little bit lean, so they're not so hard to start, and so they get plenty of oil too. One thing I was going to show you is I went ahead and replaced all of these lines when I redid the carburetors and put on metal connectors. It just had zip ties. Zip tie. No, not now. They're all screw-on automotive connectors. So it's gonna come loose. Got one in there, my fuel line going in. Of course, you saw what I had over there. That's about it. We'll just hope that everything goes well tomorrow on our first trip out. All right, we got her all together. Just got the water turned on. Everything's torqued down. Cross back on. Start her up.